back? And could you hang on? Yeah, that'd be cool. All right. Just eyeballing you guys. What's that? Yeah. Yeah, he sits in the back and he goes. He gets angry, throws up gang signs. Oh, there's where Kate is. Kate, Chris had to come find me. Yeah, I was just being a Pud diva speaker, waiting for someone to come get me. I made him get me water. Yeah, I did. And I told him, I go, this is normally Kate's job. Where's Kate? And he was like, Kate was like, F this, F Converge. Are we rolling? Oh, good. Yeah, who do we got in here? Still waiting for people to come in, hang out. Oh, no, Z is here. Right here in my face. Cool, you're back. This is good. I sat in the back and yelled things the whole time. That's what I do. I sit in your talks and I heckle and then I tweet nice things so that you're not mad at me. Yeah, she did an awesome job. Totally took that bottle of water to the head like a pro. Couldn't have done it better myself.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, cool. Get some more coming in. I like it. I better start. No, there's still people coming in. This is great. You got to mark all the talks to start at like X55 instead of right on the hour, because then people start coming in at like. And that guy left. I saw that. Kate, what did you say to him? All right. Hey, guys. I'm Johnny Christmas. I see a lot of familiar faces from yesterday's part one of this talk. That's really cool. Thank you for coming back. It means it wasn't terrible. Or it was really bad and you need to see the rest of the train wreck. Who wasn't here yesterday for my 4 o'clock? Cool. Okay. I'll do a little bit of a recap from yesterday. It's still going to work out okay because they are definitely 2 different talks. Yesterday focused more on the fact that you need to go outside and put pants on, and we'll talk about pants in a minute. And this one's going to focus more on what to do now that you've gone outside. 2 huge topics I know that face everyone who works in IT. The whole outside concept is just frightening. So a few things we talked about in part 1 was the concept of the game, and this game that society plays, the game of going outside, the game of we've all agreed to wear pants even though absolutely nobody likes to wear pants. And so it's like you can go outside with no pants on, like you're physically capable of it, but there's going to be some massive backlash and you're going to be fighting an uphill battle. If you're going to go outside and be like, nobody likes pants, why are we all wearing pants? Come on. And then you're not going to get a lot of support, and so the point is you're totally welcome to do that, but it's not going to work out for the best. You're not going to get a lot of good experiences from that, and of course I'm speaking metaphorically. There's a lot of social norms that exist that are sometimes unfortunate, but it's the way everyone currently operates, and if you want to get ahead and if you want to build relationships and get people to like you and make friends, that's really all we're talking about here, is making people like you and making friends, regardless of you want to call it an acquaintance, a business relationship, whether it's you're at a meetup trying to get a new job or just trying to meet some other people who work in your industry to use as technical contacts when you have some issues, or you're trying to build up relationships from within the job you already have and just trying to, have a better standing within your own company. It's still just all about making people like you and making friends, and that's the bottom line. And you call it whatever you want. I'm going to call it making friends. And so the best way to get people to like you is to play the same game that we're all playing, is to kind of go with that flow. And like it says up there, the only way to win at this is to play that game, is to accept all these inconvenient truths of the fact that, say, we are going to be judged. Our books are judged by its cover. We are judged based on how we dressed. I know a lot of us like to come to these conferences, some conferences more than others, and we say, oh, I'm on vacation, so I don't have to shower till Monday when I go back to work. And hey, it's a valid point. You don't have to shower, but if you're here trying to make friends and meet new people and build some relationships, it's not going to go too well for you. And like I understand showering takes time, and there's only so much time in the day, and you want to spend a lot of that time doing other things. But showering's kind of a thing. It's part of the game that we play, just like putting on appropriate attire for the place that you're going. I know a lot of us like to wear, mohawks and kilts to these conferences. And some of the conferences, like Mohawk and kilt, like you go to DEF CON, Mohawk and kilt is the thing to do. Like if you don't have a Mohawk and kilt, the DEF CON guys are like, that guy's he's probably new. Forget him. But you come, if you came here in a Mohawk and kilt, you get a lot of looks. And people would be wary of you. And it's an unfortunate thing. It's like, what does it matter what I'm wearing? It has nothing to do with what I know and what I'm capable of and who I am as a person, more or less. But it's an unfortunate truth. It's an unfortunate part of the game that we have to accept and play along with, or give up on playing the game and just accept that things aren't going to go that well for us, which is a terrible thing to say to yourself. But it sucks, but it's real, and that's just how it is for now. The other major point was that the actual part, like going outside, is really hard. And I understand that, because we've built up that bubble in our homes now of having instant gratification and satisfaction in every area of our lives with our Netflix and our video games. And Amazon Prime will get anything I want ever into my house within 2 days. And I can have my groceries delivered from Amazon Prime or any other number of services. Why would I ever go outside and potentially, not just potentially, but most likely not have a great time? I go deal with some strangers and have to approach people I don't know, and that's awkward, and I feel weird because they're probably not going to like me because I need a haircut or whatever, or everyone's going to be smarter than me, and I've only worked in this field for 6 months, and they're going to know. And why would I expose myself to that when every episode of Futurama is on Netflix? When everyone I know is like 10 levels higher than me in Destiny, and I need to work on that. And Destiny's super fun, and I know I can just put Destiny in and play it, and I'm set. And I had a great time last night, and I didn't have to leave my couch. I totally get that. Nobody likes pants. I don't like putting on pants. But who likes pants, right? No? The guy wearing shorts throws his hand up. Fucking that's how you troll a talk. I do like a nice suit. I don't know if you've noticed, but that's me. I understand that wearing a suit some places is weird too. So the whole concept of this networking thing is as being a lost art is from that. We've created that bubble in our houses that's so difficult to leave because we've trained it. We just know it's going to be great here. Even if you do nothing, it's going to be great. But if I go outside, there's bears out there. I don't know what to do with bears. And so this is about training yourself to know what to do with bears, with the wolves that are outside, and how to get comfortable and more confident with human beings and society once again, because we're social animals, and we haven't evolved past that. That's why MMOs are so popular versus... when's the last time a really good single-player game came out that everybody just lost their minds over? It's incredibly rare. But World of Warcraft is still going, although it's petering out. But, I know that was a bad question because I'm sure everyone's... That'll incite a riot because then you guys will start fighting about which game was the best. I'm on your side with that. It's because we're social creatures, and we evolved that way. It's how we become a dominant species, is from banding together and sharing ideas and being social. And even though we as an industry get accused of being antisocial and mean, oh, he's not a people person, we all are, and some of us, we secretly are. But we all really are. Whether we wanted to admit it to anyone else or not, we like social interaction to varying extents. And so the way people respond best to us is social interaction. That's the best way to get people to notice us and remember us and think of us when the time comes that an opportunity for us arises to make them go, that girl, that dude, we were talking about this or that. He was a cool guy. She was really into this. I remember that. We had a whole conversation on it. And that's not going to happen sitting on your couch. That's not going to happen because you went to bed early because you were tired and you ducked out on that event that you said you would go to. And that's another really important part. You need to keep a social calendar for these events. You need to start going to things, saying you're going to go to things, say yes to everything, and put it down in your calendar that every single one of you has in your phone, because I know even if you got the old style flip phones, even those still come with calendars in them, so don't try to pull it on me because someone did. I was like, no, it's in there. You have to keep that calendar, and you have to commit to it, and that I understand, that is the hardest part. It is so easy to not do things. It is so, you get such a dopamine rush when you cancel plans. When you text someone and be like, sorry, man, I'm not going to make it tonight, and then you give them some excuse, and they go, oh, that sucks, man, I'll catch you next time, and then you just get that rush of like, yeah, I don't have to do anything. You don't get that rush when you do have to do something. It's terrible. You get this fear, this anxiety of like, oh, man, I got to go to this thing. It's going to be terrible. I'm not going to know anybody. Oh, it sucks. I'm going to talk today about kind of training yourself to get past that anxiety and be more confident in those situations. And a big first step in that is you just have to just consciously commit to it and deal with it at first. And I know that's a crappy thing to say, like, hey, man, suck it up, deal with it. Like, that's not good advice, but I'll get into more of that in a bit. Networking is a skill, and because it's a skill, it's also an art. It's something that's not black or white. It's not binary. It's not on or off. It's something you adjust based on the context and the situation that you're currently in every single time you're talking to a new person and every single time you're talking to that person. And it's something we do naturally because we're social creatures. We know everybody knows that we adjust slightly, somewhat who we are, the things we say, how we present them based on how we're talking to people. We talk to our moms differently than we talk to our best friend, differently than we talk to our significant others, substantially. And most of the time, if not all the time, we don't even consciously do that. Like I'll consciously not present things in a more technical manner to my mom. We do it both consciously and subconsciously. It's in all of us. We're all capable of this. This isn't like new things that you're just terrible at and you don't know how to do. I'm talking about stuff that's already ingrained inside of all of us, and just getting ourselves to recognize it and be more comfortable with that again and get outside of this bubble of perfection that we've created around our couches, and really getting back to socializing, because socializing is how you get ahead now. It's not show up to work every day and work hard and one day you'll own the company. It's getting them to like you and remember you, so that when an opportunity that you might be good for pops up, they do, and they go, let's call that guy. And that's what we're trying to do here. And so we're going to be talking today about practicing all of that and how to practice it, and that's what it is. Practicing to the point where you become comfortable with it, where it starts to become second nature, and you then become confident in it because you start having success with it. And it takes a long time because it's a skill and it's an art. How many people here play a musical instrument? How terrible are you at it now, maybe? How terrible were you when you first started? It's a disaster. How many people tried to start playing a musical instrument and quickly went, oh, no, this is too hard. Forget this. I'm Just, yeah. Most people. Yeah. I am a white male from the suburbs, so I play guitar. That's my destiny. And I was terrible at first, but because I had some musical training as a young kid, like I understood that you had to stick with it and push through it, and eventually you get better from practice. But as a young kid, when I was learning that first instrument, oh my God, did my parents get mad at me because I wouldn't practice, and they paid so much money for that thing. And it's something you have to stick with, and you have to understand. And I'm telling you, yes, you're going to fail a lot at first, and it's going to be weird and awkward, and you're going to be bad at it, and that's normal because it's a skill and it's an art, and it's something that as you practice at, you're going to get better at. So don't just write it off as this is too hard and I'm just not that kind of person, and this is Johnny just talking because he's naturally outgoing and can just naturally approach people, and I'm not that kind of person. That's all BS, because I am not naturally this kind of person. I still have problems with approaching strangers. Who's ever seen me wearing those cat ears that I walk around with a lot? Yeah. I started wearing those to force myself to talk to strangers. That was a thing that I put on because I was so bad at approaching people that I said, I'm going to make people approach me, and I'm going to have to freaking deal with it. And I'll talk about that later. The comment was Neil Strauss for those watching at home, and we'll get to that. Yes, absolutely. And it works. You put these cat ears on, and you sit in a chair in a corner. People are going to come up and go, "What's with the cat ears?" And then you have to say something, and turns out not the best response. What the problem was that responding with meow started a conversation that I had no interest in. Like, meow is a great response. It doesn't scare anyone away. You go meow, and they go, "Oh yeah, meow," and then they're like, "My Little Pony," and not this con, different con, and then also don't wear the cat ears at the My Little Pony con. Pro tip. I'm sorry I didn't make it a slide. So you will fail a lot, and that's great. And I'm telling you this now so that when it happens to you, you're not going to be like, "Oh man, this is it." When you fail, that's when you learn. Because, well, you need to choose to learn from it. You can't just, if you just fail and you go, "Well, let's go back home." You have to look at what happened, why you failed. And it's not necessarily that you did something socially unacceptable or you were at fault and that you did something you need to feel bad or guilty about. It's that you did something that was wrong for that person in that situation. And you need to figure out what that was. You need to look back on it, and you need to figure out what that was. If you can, go back over the conversation, see where they started getting weird, see when they left even though you weren't looking for them to leave the conversation yet, and try and figure out what was going wrong. Were you talking too much about something they clearly weren't interested in? And then just consciously be aware of that. And if that's a thing you think about a lot, then you got to go, okay, I have a problem where I constantly talk about things that other people aren't interested in because I'm just really excited and passionate about them. And they're not. And I just want to talk about them because it's something I like to do. It's things like that. You need to review, adjust, try it again next time, and then do that again. And then eventually a lot of that stuff and the things you know about yourself will become second nature, and you'll start to just realize mid-sentence, like, I'm talking way too much about this, and I'm going to pull it back and let the other person talk for a while. And you'll start to get better, and you'll start to have more people like you just based on that. And you'll get more confident. And confidence is really the key in all of this. Like, no matter what you look like, how bad of a conversationalist you are, you can be bad at everything else. But if you are confident and people perceive this confidence in you, they'll naturally like you more. And this is an ancient animalistic tribal leader thing. This is something that we evolved into, and it has not been long enough outside of tribal days for us to evolve out of it in any way, shape, or form. This is a bug in our brains. This is something you can exploit. If you are confident, people will naturally have more respect for you. They may not like the fact that they do, but it'll be there. And so just building up that natural confidence, at least natural confidence of you being in a social situation and just being okay with talking to strangers, that comes across and that speaks volumes to, and not only who's listening to you, but the people standing around watching you off to the side speaking to somebody. Because you could tell when somebody's confident in speaking about something or just okay with a situation versus somebody who's very pensive and isn't quite cool with the situation. And we know so much, we perceive so much body language that we can pick up on somebody's confidence levels watching a conversation happen half a block away. So anyway, so you showed up. You showed up at your local information security meetup. You showed up at a tech conference. You're at Microsoft Ignite. You're somewhere where there's a lot of people, and maybe you're by yourself too, and you made yourself go, and you're like, I'm going to show up. What do you do once you're there? Who knows what you do once you're there? You gotta work the room, and that is key, because you think I'm personable and outgoing and cool with talking to strangers, and I'm the guy who's gonna walk around. And I wish I wasn't tethered to this mic, but we're not. I'm not, and you're probably not. Every now and then there's an exception, somebody who's just great at it and just loves doing that. But it's most of us, no. And you're probably in here because you're not great at it and you don't like it and you feel awkward and weird just approaching strangers because you're like, I don't know what to talk about. What do I talk about with this guy? I don't even know him. You got to work. You have to take control of that. You need to be the one who does it, because they're not, because they're the same as you. They're not going to come talk to you because you're a stranger. I mean, yeah, it happens now and then, and if you hang around long enough, somebody statistically is probably going to approach you, except if you're wandering around too long in the background and people are like, that guy's been creeping around for like 3 hours. What's his deal? Is he lost? Go talk to him. No, you go talk to him. I don't want to talk to him. He's weird. So, like, if you creep around in the background too long, now you're a creeper. Now you're a weirdo. Why? How was that not me who did that? So, what does that mean, working the room? It means, kind of remember the old lounge singers? They do half a song, take their mic, hop off the stage, go talk to the tables. Hey, how you doing today? How you ladies doing? Where are you from? That's creepy. You don't do exactly that. But just that kind of general walking around, finding someone to talk to, seeing if a conversation develops, and if it doesn't, not pushing the subject, not being persistent, not being creepy. And creepiness is a topic that's going to come up in a little bit. It means at least be open to people talking to you and let them know that you're interested in having a conversation. You're not just some guy who's passing by. Put your phone away. And I know you hear this every day. Like, and we all know, like, yeah, don't. It's rude to talk to people with your phone out. We all know this. I'm not surprising anyone with that sentence. And yet, how many people have you talked to today where they also had their phone out? And if you ask that person, like, did you know that's rude? They're going to go, oh yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Hang on one second. I'm listening. And that's my favorite. I'm listening. Go ahead. I'm listening. I'm live tweeting this conversation, I guess. And it's awful. It's awful watching me up here do it. Isn't this weird? But just put your phone away. If it's an emergency, they'll call 911. We have emergency services. You can check your phone in a minute. Just hang on. Put your laptop away. I see this a lot at the InfoSec meetups, like at the bars and stuff. Everyone brings their laptops. Stop. Like, this is like one of the few like excuses you can give work, at least as an IT professional. Like, I'm at an IT meetup. I'll be back in an hour. I didn't have my laptop. I was kind of bettering, my stance in the IT realm. Google Glass has gotten to be a big thing, and those creep me out because they're like, oh, if they're recording, they have a light that turns on. Well, yeah, out of the box they do. I don't know what you've done to that thing. It's just like having a camera pointed at someone while you're talking to them, and it's just creepy as heck. And just, I don't know, it looks like none of you have one, but I got to touch on it. And then you got to stand up and walk around. You can't sit there at your table, on your bar stool, whatever, in a chair, and hope someone comes up and talks to you, unless you put some cat ears on. And it's not very professional. It's not great in the more professional realm. You got to at least be around, be part of the scene that's going on, being part of the crowd. If you're sitting in a chair in the back of the room, you're not part of what's going on. People aren't going to talk to you. But if you're at the very least, and this is what we're talking about here, this is all going to be at the very least kind of stuff. This is intro level. At the very least, just do this and you will get somewhere. I'm not going to get into like intermediate and advanced stuff. This is just, please at least just do this, and I promise you, you're going to get way more results than when you weren't doing this. Get up and just be in the crowd, be in the middle of people, be walking around the vendor area here and just looking at stuff, because chances are way higher that someone's at least going to come up and just say something to you, like, hey man, where'd you get those shoes? Just like something, and then a conversation starts, and then it turns out you both like StarCraft or whatever. That conversation at all wouldn't have happened if you were sitting, if you just sat in this room all day and just watched whatever speaker came up and then went home. You don't get a lot of networking done in talks. You don't. You shouldn't, at least. Please don't. Please don't do it during my talks. And so while you're walking around, you have to look approachable too. You have to. You don't want to be this guy walking like. Everybody's seen this guy. There's 3 of them here. One of them's in this room. And that guy just kind of looking. It's weird. I don't want to talk to that guy. And I know we need someone to just go talk to him and be like, hey, man. But I don't want to talk to him because he's weird. And you got to look up. Keep your head up. We all have terrible posture. I know. We all have terrible posture. It's because we sit like this all day on our computers. All night, yeah. This is the IT stance. It's this, and so then when we walk around like this. I know, I have the same problem, and I have to constantly keep an eye on my own. I just watched like 4 of you go like this. You all, that right? Yeah, fight the good fight, man. No, that's terrible. It's exactly what I'm saying not to do. You need to accept that we have to stand up. Because you're being judged based on you just walk, like you're being judged by people you may never have talked to on the other side of a room because you're walking around like this. And someone's going like, man, that kid must sit on his computer all day. He's a basement nerd. I don't want to talk to that guy. Yeah, well, heads up, we're all basement nerds. Some of us just have basements on higher floors. And that's a big point. You need to, what you all just did when you went like this, and not because you thought I was looking at you to call you out. You did it just because you realized it was happening. Like, oh yeah, I need to remember it. It's the elephant in the room. Why do you have an elephant in this room? Why do you? All right, man. Here's an elephant. So you have to constantly keep an eye on yourself, and it'll become second nature after a while. But at first, you need to constantly keep an eye on yourself and make sure, like, when you catch yourself, you do that. Just pop up, and then do it for a while, and eventually that practice becomes second nature. It becomes muscle memory. You start to perk up when you're outside. You're more approachable then. Keep your eyes, just have a more open expression and stance as you're walking around. And here's the elephant in the room. This happy place. I know you're all looking at that. That's, everyone, what is that from? It's from Billy Madison. Remember Billy Madison when he has to find his happy place? And he's teeing off and it was his grandma working in the garden and just being rich and having her mansion. It's that little memory you have. It's that something, and everybody can find their own, and go ahead and think about it right now if you want. It's that one that puts that little, like, tiny smirk on your face, that dumb smirk that you catch yourself making and stop. Like somebody might see you smiling. It's that. Have that. Know what that is. And when you're walking around and no one's talking to you and you're hoping somebody might talk to you or you're just in a new place, think of that. Because it puts this look on your face. It's this one. Versus the fact that we're all dead tired all the time and this is our normal face. Like, who do you want to talk to? This guy or this guy? Don't get this like a super happy place, like, because then you're this guy. Yeah, it's just the idea is just that open. Not only open your stance, your body posture. Hands in the pockets is not terrible. It's way better than this one. It's way better than folded arms. It's way better than standing in a corner like this, having two sides closed up. Nobody's talking to this guy. Guy looks like he's going to kick my ass. Nope. Open up. Open up not just your face and your personality, your body. And at least do that. And I'm not saying then go talk to people. I'm just saying at least do that. You have greatly increased your chances of a conversation starting with somebody. And once a conversation starts, it's game on. You've already got a great potential for developing a relationship with somebody. And I'm not saying making best friends. I'm saying meeting someone cool where you guys click together, and that might be a resource that you can use later for something useful, whether it's getting a job or if it's already at your company, if you need a favor from another team that guy works on, and you know that you're a jerk coming up last minute because you screwed up, but man, I need this favor. When you've built up that relationship with somebody on another team at work, they're going to go, all right, man, I got it. Don't worry. You owe me a beer. And that's the best. So that's at least let conversations start and try to roll with them. That's the least. So what I see people doing wrong a lot is the wallflowering, just literally leaning on the walls, or just sitting in your chair doing nothing, or creeping on people, trying to be part of a conversation, but not doing it right, like balancing on the edge of it. Like if you're talking to someone else and then there's a guy like just clearly like listening in, doing this. A lot. And like if that happens to you, you kind of have a responsibility of saying, of addressing that person and trying to bring them into the conversation. If you are that person, we'll get to that in a bit, because you're being creepy. And creepiness is a big problem in our industry, right? Like we all know a lot of creepy people. We all work with a lot of creepy people. Some of us are creepy people. All of us are creepy people. Because creepiness is subjective, and it's based on the context and the person who's perceiving you. And originally this entire talk was just about creepiness. And I sat down for a really long time with a woman who's a graduate of Carnegie Mellon University, math major, and I said, let's math this out. What is creepiness? How can I convey creepiness in a logical manner to a bunch of IT folks so that we can all reference something and go and have a subjective measurement? Like I wanted a measurement of creepiness so that you can know where things stand. And after a really long, hilarious, weird journey, we came up with something we were really satisfied with that I've titled the Johnny Xmas Grand Unified Creepiness Theory. And I have if you guys want to take pictures and stuff, it's fine. I don't mind video pictures. You can live tweet. I think it's funny. I have the GitHub for it here, and what this is it's a I have the MATLAB script I used to create this in that GitHub, and you can download it and play with it and make all sorts of like funny people. Be like, I'm gonna make Chuck, and you can like type up like your perception of Chuck, and then I'm gonna compare Chuck to Frank, and it's just a fun thing to play with. Like you could do like I did Poltergeist and James Bond. The main thing you need to look at here, because I know we're not all like totally up on our inverse trigonometric functions, is the top part, the awkwardness, forwardness, attractiveness, and the fact that everything is amplified by persistence. And what this means is that awkwardness is like how awkward a person is in presenting a situation to you or treating a context. Forwardness is the old-timey use of the word forward, like, sir, that's quite forward of you. Asking something or presenting something or saying something that is above the established social acceptance level of the current situation. And then attractiveness, you'll notice, is a divisor that softens the blow of those first two. Everybody will admit that the more attractive we feel the person who's talking to us is, the more we're willing to accept how awkward and forward whatever they're up to is, to an extent. And that extent is their attractiveness versus awkward forwardness ratio. That's the extent we're willing to accept it before it starts to still become creepy. And then persistence, if you want to imagine the persistence, eliminate everything else and imagine the persistence just being an exponent of the parentheses up top. No matter what, if that person is persistent and persists and pushes a topic, it's going to get creepy. Regardless of the result of that ratio, it's going to get creepy. And so keep that in mind, that that's generally how creepiness works. And you can tell if you're creeping someone out based on that, if you can get pretty good at judging a situation. The reason I made this a trigonometric function with all the extra numbers and letters, it's right here. Here's all my notes. So clearly... well, hold your questions until I've left the building. And my favorite is I think I put this here to keep this part greater than 1. I will note on the bottom there, this is all these variables use the standard 1 to 10 scale of, like, oh, that dude's a total 7, etc. So the reason I did inverse trigonometry functions is because it makes cool graphs. And so I had a few examples here, like the one I called Cletus. He was like 10 on the awkwardness, 10 on the forwardness, 1 on the attractiveness. He skyrockets to creepy immediately. Like he's like right up there, right off the bat. This dude is weird looking, and he's asking me some stuff that I'm not comfortable with him asking me, and he's doing it in a real weird way. This is creepy. I need to get out. That's Cletus. And then I did the you and me kind of as a joke there. The you is like 5s across the board. And you'll see like everyone starts off not that creepy. It's like the creepiness kind of is a little slow to get started. And then as those ratios, I'm sorry. The time here is persistence. The x-axis is as persistence increases. So your ratio, say, for you is 5s across the board. It comes down to a 1. Your persistence constantly, or evenly amplifies that as time goes on. But because you're not too extreme in any of those scenarios, you're going to even off at about a 7 in creepiness. And you'll never really get past 7. You'll still be creepy, and the person will be creeped out and attempt to escape the situation. But the creepiness isn't going to be like a severe, like Cletus, where you're going to throw a chair at him and run. It's just going to be more of a, all right, well, I'll get back to you. I put the me, and then the James Bond is the reason I created this whole function, because I used to just have the parentheses stuff. Where am I? The parentheses stuff, and people would be like, well, what about people who are a 10 and then totally not awkward or forward, and they're just 1s, and I'm like, that's nobody. Like, there's absolutely no situation. It's not a real situation that happens. Because it's awkward to talk to a 10 in the first place. And you got to remember, this is all subjective and from the viewpoint of the perceiver. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to figure that out anyway. We're going to make James Bond. And so there's James Bond, who's like, is 1 awkward, 1 forward, 10 attractiveness. And he still gets a little creepy as persistence goes, but never gets past like a 2. And he just kind of always gets his way because he's James Bond, and it's a fictional character, and it wouldn't work too well if he didn't get his way all the time. So the point is, we're all creepy, and we all can creep people out based on the context. So how do you reduce that creepy, especially in your room full of strangers, and you don't really know how to judge how much creeping out you're going to be doing to people because you don't know who they are and you're just trying to come up. what I recommend is finding a large group of people that are already having a conversation, because chances are in an environment such as this, a lot of those people have already probably just met or just met yesterday. They're not great. You're not busting in on a bachelorette party. This is probably people who barely know each other as is, or people who were like you, who just kind of wandered around and saw this group of people and like, oh, see what's going on over here, and started listening in. It's way less creepy if there's already a group versus you creeping on a conversation that's one-on-one. If there's already a group, your presence doesn't amplify the creepiness as much, because creepiness is divided based on the number and I'm not going to do any more graphs. But I may publish like a Freakonomics style book on the topic, good on the coffee table. So hang around if there's like a conversation going on that you're interested in, and it's people like sharing stories back and forth that kind of add to the topic. There's going to be a lull eventually, most likely. Wait for that lull, and if you have something relevant to add that you think that might benefit everybody or is appropriate, go ahead and throw that in and go, it's been my experience that, or this one time I had something like that happen. And that's great. People love stories in general, because most of you who were here yesterday remember this one. We respond best to stories. We open up best when someone is telling us a story. And that's something, again, that's part of us as human beings. That's something that we evolved into as animals, because we didn't invent writing until, who knows the number? It's like 7,000, 10,000 years ago. Very recently as far as evolution goes, like essentially yesterday. So before we had writing, we communicated important information for life and survival using stories. We would all sit around the campfire every night, and the elders, or the priestess, or whatever your particularly tribe had as that methodology, would tell stories of the days of old, of how our people got from there to here, and they may tell a story of when the gods came down from the skies and taught us to make fire, whatever myths or falsehoods or truth, if you're into that, may exist. The point was that important information was being conveyed that you needed to remember, if only remember the past lest we be deemed to repeat it, etc. Was being conveyed in those stories, and our subconsciouses open up when we're being told a story. Our social walls that we build up, and our general mistrust of strangers drops really quick when we're being told a story. It's why Jesus spoke in parables. It's why he told stories about people who did good things and reaped the benefits, versus just telling someone, hey, do good things and you'll reap some benefits. But no, he'd tell you a 6-chapter story, and you'd go, wow, yeah, if I just did good things, I'll reap some benefits. And you take that to heart because you were told a story. And that's another bug in the human psyche. It's a hole in our brain you can exploit. It's a direct tunnel into the subconscious. It's called neurolinguistic programming, or at least it's a function of neurolinguistic programming. And it's great, and it always works. Telling a story makes people remember. Take what you're saying to heart. It makes them remember it. It makes them remember you. So don't tell a 6-chapter story to a group of people you just busted in, but a couple sentences. Or just preface it with, yeah, this one time at work, or I had come across this thing this one time. Now it's a story, because you gave it a context. You gave it a little shell to operate inside of it now. And it's all it takes is that. And they're just dropping, they're listening. People love stories about failure, Schadenfreude, because it makes us, because we're terrible people, and it makes us feel better about ourselves when someone else fails. It's kind of a thing. Don't always tell stories about failure, because then you're a negative guy who's down on himself. You're that girl who never has anything nice to say. She's just always complaining about work. Don't always talk about failure. It's a great weapon to use when you need it. It's not an everyday tool that you should be pulling out and throwing it at every situation. And then also match the energy of the group. I think that's a big one for avoiding creepiness. If it's more of a hanging around, backpacks on, hands in their pockets kind of group, just shooting it, just chatting a bit. Don't be that guy who comes in and throws an arm on two other people like, hey guys, what's going on over here? What you guys talking about? That guy's creepy as hell. But if it's more of a boisterous crowd and you come in with the hands in your pocket and the mopey look, nobody's going to want to talk to you. So at least try and get in the same zone as they are. And if they're way outside of an energy level that you can match, maybe try to get close, or maybe it's just a scene you should avoid for now. But if your energy levels are at the more extreme that difference is between your energy levels, the more creepy you're going to seem, and the less people are going to want to talk to you. Solo walk-ups are hard. But as you're approaching a stranger, and I'll give you another bug, another exploit. Whenever you approach a stranger, whenever you're approached by a stranger, generally there's three things that they're wondering. Who is this? What do they want from me? How long before they're gone? That's what everybody wonders. Whether they think that subconsciously or not, that's what's going on. That's what that fear response is when you're approached by a stranger. It's that. Who is this? What do they want? How can I get rid of them? So, yeah, I got it. So you can use that when you're approaching somebody. You're saying, hey, I'm Johnny. I just noticed that you have this thing, so I wonder if I ask you a quick question about it, and then I got to get to this talk, but I really wanted to know about this laptop you got. Whatever. Like, that's a good way of starting a conversation. You address all three of those right away. You've already completely disarmed them. They're going to go, yeah, sure. Okay. And because now they know all that, they're going to feel a little bit safer. You can start a conversation and then maybe not get to your talk because you've engaged them in something that they like. And that's another thing. Just talk about something that clearly stands out about them, because it's probably something they're proud of or that they like. And when you make people talk about things they like, they're going to like you more. And whether it's cool sticker on the laptop, I get that all the time. I got like cool stickers. If they got like the brand new cool phone, the iPhone 18 that came out yesterday, you could be like, oh, hey man, is that the iPhone 18? Yeah. And they're going to, because it's an iPhone, they're going to be super excited they have it. Like, yeah. And they're going to go, yeah, it's really cool, man. How you liking that? And at least opens up, and again, gets that conversation started. And then you just go from there. And it's an art, and you got to feel the conversation out, and you got to watch that other person, and you got to be seeing how they're responding, and kind of, if they're not feeling what you're saying, hello, come on in.
Thank you.
I'm going to skip that one. If they're not feeling what you're saying, notice that. Big point is that nobody actually wants to listen to you at all. We're selfish creatures. We want to talk about ourselves and the things that we're excited about. And generally, we don't want to hear other people talk about things they're excited about and talk about themselves and make themselves sound good. We want to talk about ourselves to them and make us sound good so they like us. And that's not like, I'm not saying that's our goal here and that's how you make friends is you make people like you, but talking about yourself, that's our natural response. We want to do that because we have so many things that we like. And we want to tell this person we're passionate about, especially at conferences like this, like in information security, where there's so few of us to begin with, and we're all so passionate or else we wouldn't even be here. To find other people that are just as passionate, you get excited, and you just want to talk to them about all this stuff that you do at work, because finally there's somebody else who knows what I'm talking about. Because I work alone, I'm the only security guy at work, and everybody ignores me and or hates me because of that. And now here's this room full of people that don't know what I'm talking about. I'm going to talk to them forever about this garbage that they have to do all day and don't actually want to listen to about it all. And it's an inconvenient truth. Nobody actually wants to listen to anybody else, more or less. They want to hear you. They want an opportunity to tell you about them so that you'll like them, because they're only going to tell you good things about them, because people rarely are like, well, I kind of smell, but we generally say good things about ourselves. Here's another bug, another exploit. The more someone talks to you, the more they will like you. That is a general rule. Exceptions here or there, rare, generally, overall, 85% of the time. The more you let someone talk to you, the more they're going to remember you as a guy they like, because they just talk to you for a long time. And they go, yeah, I remember him. That was cool. We talked for a long time about X, Y, or Z. So the trick is just make them talk to you. If they're kind of having a lull in what they were talking about, ask some probing questions to keep them going. If you don't have anything good to respond with, just say, really? Oh, yeah, that's cool. Oh, I really like that. That's hilarious. Laugh. Be an active listener of that conversation without interjecting, stopping them, and inserting stuff about yourself. And when somebody's talking about themselves to you, the worst thing you can do is interject and then tell them something similar about yourself. It seems natural, and I see everyone do it all the time. You know when somebody does that to you, it's the worst, because you were talking about something you're excited about, and then they stopped you, and then they started talking about themselves. Like, you hate that. Don't be that person. Don't do that to other people. It seems natural, like, oh no, I'm contributing to the conversation. I too have had that experience. Nah, it's not how it's perceived. You can try and soften it a lot and present it that way, and every now and then it is appropriate. Again, feel the conversation out. It's an art. You're going to screw that up, and you're going to turn someone off, and you're going to look at it later, and you're going to be like, yeah, man, I shouldn't have said nothing. I should have let her just keep talking. So next time, and when you see it happen and you want to say something, be like, I'm just going to wait. Just going to wait this one out. Don't offer unsolicited advice. That's a big one, man. When people are complaining about stuff, generally, they're not looking for help. They're not looking for a fix. My water. They're looking for sympathy and empathy. They don't want you to pull out Google and be like, let's figure this out. I got a guy for They're just complaining. They're just blowing off steam. Let them blow off that steam. Nod, say, oh man, that sucks. Yeah, I know how that is. Oh, really? Ask a couple of questions and then just, pat on the back, let me buy you a beer, etc. They love that. Let them talk about themselves. If you can get someone to complain to you, that's even better than them just talking to you. Like, that's key, man. Just about ready to wrap this up. So it's all about listening and not being the one doing the most talking. Don't be the one doing the most talking. Here's how you could tell if that's happening. Because again, it's subjective. Talking too much is not. There's not a hard number. It's not something I've talked for 4 minutes and now that's done. You got to watch the other person. Some people it's 30 seconds if they don't like the topic. Some people it's 8 minutes. Watch for their body language. Just keep an eye on it while you're talking. And I'm not going to get into 60 slides of body language. And I recommended a really, really good book yesterday in my talk on body language. And it's a huge deal, and it's a critical part of human communication. And you should really check it out, look into it. But look for these like real basic things, like minimal eye contact. Like if they're that one was called What Everybody Is Saying. Yeah. And the videos, Iron Geek's got the video up. You can go check it out. It's right at the end. Look for that minimal eye contact, like while you're talking to them, they're doing this one, just kind of looking around, looking at their beer glass, looking at stuff on the table. Like that's almost an impossible thing for humans to avoid doing. We all do that when we're losing interest. Everyone does it. Even you have to consciously say, don't lose eye contact, don't lose eye contact, don't lose eye. It's so hard to do. If they're giving the yeah, 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 that one, yeah, obvious. If they're not asking any questions at all, like they're just staring at you and not asking, like not trying to further their own education or whatever with what you're asking, huge red flag. The chicken heading, this one, it's like the eye contact, but more severe. Like if they're talking to you and out of nowhere, they're just like, it's also called squirrel. And then they come back and they're like, oh, the waitress walked by. Anyway. And some of them might be like, sorry, it's a really cute waitress. But most of the time, if they're just, oh, that fan turned on. Like, when that fan turning on is more interesting than what you're saying, there's your sign. Checking their phone. I know we all check our phones. It's because you're not interested in what that person is saying. If you have been the one The talking to the same person more than 15 minutes is kind of a hard rule I set as far as like group meetups like this go. If you're talking for more than 50 minutes to the same person, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot because you're not talking to somebody else then, and you're minimizing the number of conversations you have started and the relationships you could be building. So set yourself like a hard 15 minutes, and you can go back to that person later if you run into them again, and that's really cool. And that's a tactic, I believe it's called time distortion, whereas if you talk to somebody for a while and then you leave, and then you come back to them later that day, and you see them again, and like, oh, hey! It's like it's in their brain, it's like it's been several days since you've seen each other. It's like when you leave the house for 5 minutes and you come back and your dog just loses his mind because he thought you were dead. That's what happens way in the back of your brain. When that person goes away and then comes back and wants to talk to you again, they go, hey, what have you been doing? Did you catch any talks? How's your day been going? And you can have another conversation. Now you've already building a relationship. Now you have a relationship. You guys are friends to some extent. You know each other. You've talked twice. You've talked more than once. Now you're hanging out. Great tactic. Time distortion. Finally, you're drunk. I see. A lot of these meetups have alcohol involved. And I understand that. Keep an eye on yourself, or ask someone to keep an eye on you, and do discreetly be like, hey, I think I might be getting too drunk of these things. Like, throw me an elbow or tell me tomorrow. I see too many people get way too drunk, and I don't mean like falling down, can't get up drunk, but just like drunk to the point where you're spitting on the person you're talking to, or giving this face when you're talking about something you don't hate, and just being real negative. Like, have a beer. Or don't. There shouldn't really be anyone giving you crap at our age for not drinking. I know plenty of people who don't drink, versus whether they're recovering alcoholics or just choose not to. We're not 16. Nobody should be like, oh, come on, man, have a shot with us. Those are not great people to hang out with in the first place. They generally don't have a lot to offer. So just stop getting drunk. I'll throw this here. This will be our last one. Here are some great resources for practicing this stuff. Highly recommend taking improv classes. Highly, because it teaches you to act on your feet, to be able to respond to whatever somebody throws at you. It teaches you to be funny, which is a great quality to have. It's been the generic thing on the dating game since like the 60s. Like, what do you like in a guy? Oh, I wanted someone who makes me laugh. Like, it's as generic as long walks on the beach. Everyone likes someone who makes them laugh. Everybody likes to laugh. Who doesn't like to laugh? Laughing makes everything better. And improv is going to teach you that. And it's going to teach you how to make like witty remarks, one-liners, but also keep a conversation going, because improv is not a one-man show. It's on working with groups of people. But I understand it's very cost prohibitive, and it may not exist in your city. If you can find something at a local high school or college or something, I highly recommend taking a summer of improv classes. Open mic stand-up comedy, that's great. You will be awful for a very long time, and no one will laugh. And you will go home and work on that. That is trial by fire to the best extent. But if you're that kind of person who is like, I like to learn the hardest way possible because then all of the easy ways I already know. That's how you do it. Open mic comedy. Street magic is cool because it makes people, like, it's a good just conversation starter or something fun you can do that makes people remember you. You can work other rooms that aren't tech meetups. These are my favorite ones. Nightclubs, dance clubs, that's obvious. That's kind of the same as going out and picking up guys, picking up girls. What I liked to do was actually pick up guys at the nightclubs, because that was a big challenge. I don't mean like finding a date. I mean getting guys to like me, because in a nightclub, and that's another trial by fire, like dudes hate each other in the nightclubs. Like, we are all enemies because we're all after the girls. So like getting a dude to like you in a nightclub, that's awesome. And one of my favorite things to do was like compliment their shoes. I'd be like, man, where'd you get those shoes? And like, oh, because all these dudes wear the best shoes to nightclubs. They wear their most expensive Aldo shoes. Where'd you get those? Oh man, I got those at Aldo's. Man, those are awesome. You break that ice, you break down that barrier, you're having conversation. Like, That was one of my favorites. Bookstores, super easy, because most people are just hanging around, mingling in bookstores anyway, not really there for any reason. Same with coffee houses, art galleries, museums. Long lines, the supermarket. How many times have you been in a long line in the supermarket and the person in front of you just turned around and made some witty remark about being in a long line? You're like, yeah. Start a conversation there. And the great part is, like, with strangers and stuff like this, you'll never see them again if you don't want to. So if you screw that up royally and, like, embarrass yourself, doesn't matter. You're not going to see them again at the next Converge. You'll never see them again ever. So, yeah, I threw a couple of required readings to the game there. And so that's it. Thank you guys for coming. I hope that was fun. I've been Johnny Christmas. You can follow me on Twitter. It's Johnny Xmas with a 0 and a 4. I love when you guys tweet at me. Please tweet how you felt about the talk, whether you liked it or not. I really like when you tweet when you like it, of course. But I favorite all those, and like when I'm having a bad time at talks and think I should stop, I scroll through all of those, and I'm like, oh man, this is fun. These people like this. I'm going to keep going. So I really appreciate it if you do tweet at me and be like, keep it up, guy. So I'll see you all next time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.